stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another week here on World Pro Racing. Alex Goldschmidt joined for the very first time in 2021. My German co-commentator for this evening, Servus Nico Hildebrand. How are you, my friend? Long time no speak.
Yeah, long time, Alex. It's been since last year, hasn't it? But yeah, good to be back with you. And honestly, what a race to come back to. 90 minutes at the Nurburgring and Multiclass as well.
Yes, indeed. For the first time this season, we head to the place dubbed the Green Hell by three-time Formula One world champion Sir Jackie Stewart. We're going to be racing at the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit for the next 90 minutes. Quite simply put, this is going to be a rather interesting test, but it's also a circuit that both myself and Nico have a lot of fondness with. And Nico, just think of it this way: GT3, GT4, 90-minute multi-class race. They've got a 15-minute free practice session, 15-minute qualifying session, and they've got to have 2 mandatory pit stops. Refueling is required. The strategy calls are going to be absolutely ridiculous tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, since it's 90 minutes, you can basically do 3 30-minute stops. Oh, well, stints, not stops, and just completely go on the sprint racing wagon. But to time that perfectly, so you don't get out in traffic and just avoid losing time at all costs, that's going to be the crucial thing here tonight.
Yeah, well, firstly, a big thank you to some new partners that have jumped on board with us here at World Pro Racing. Most predominantly is the race, which is now broadcasting all future races of the World Pro Racing Sprint Series, which took place last Friday night. Also, we have to say a big thank you to our partners as always, with this stream being powered by Melita, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, and AMD and Gaming Malta. A warm welcome to everyone on Malta's TVM Sport channel, Esports TV, and also motorsport.tv itself. It's going to be a fantastic week. We've got a lot coming. We've got round 3 this week at Misano. So both Jake Sperry and Kieran McGinley will be back in action at 8:30 p.m. Central European time this coming Friday. But myself and Nico will be back this coming Saturday because, again, twice in 1 week. Who'd have thunk it, Nico? The Nurburgring beckons once again with the all-German 2-hour casual race. That's going to be another good one for the folks at home to be watching.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Germany, of course, England is a big automotive country, but Germany as well, and, richest history that we get from motorsports is, of course, from the Nürburgring, and then with some of the best manufacturers from Germany as well. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to this week.
Likewise. So I'm wondering if we can actually head down to the track right now and see what is happening in free practice. Okay, quite a few familiar faces from the casual racing side. Obviously, Luke Whitehead, who is also one of the many competitors. Good evening to Ridwan Messaoud, who I believe is currently leading the standings after the second round last week, is also watching. Nathan Thomas, amongst others. You've got Christian Malarchek in the Ferrari. Then you've got Ohak, Marcus Littlewood, Vishal Patel. You've also got Andrea Rizzo in the 762, Aston Martin, Rainer Resser, Yazi Jonas, Matthias Selbrecht, Joris Stickfort, and a whole host of other names. But Nico, just from really a track perspective, the drivers are really going to be tested. And one of the biggest things that we have tonight is, of course, back marker traffics.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, Nürburgring is known for very long straights, but also these mid-speed corners and also a lot of high-speed corners where the speed differences will, of course, be exaggerated. When you just look at the cornering speeds between a GT3 car and a GT4 car, it's like night and day. So I think it's definitely going to be something that we can look forward to here. And just as we're mentioning the GT4 cars as well, very nice car here, the Porsche Cayman GT4. Just one of the many we actually have here. Actually, quite nice variety that we have in the field right now.
Yes, very much the case. There's Dan Ginchard in the number 37. He's currently leading, so you can see on the left-hand side of your screen with the blue marks in the bottom right-hand corner of their race number, that indicates GT4. So it's Ginchard from Saristo. Then you've also got Sheldon Scott Muscat in the number 15 Mercedes. He's rounding out the top three. So Saristo, and there is Muscat. Always sticks with the Mercedes, does good old Sheldon. And look, he does a bit of a Stuttgart slide going into the pit lane entrance there. So a lot of drivers really trying to push the envelope. Luke Whitehead in the Audi R8 LMS Evo, Ingolstadt's finest, running on a 154.327. Now at the moment, Nico, the track temperature's 33 degrees Celsius, hardly any wind pickup at all. But as we know, through the Eifel region, which is not too far from the Ardennes, where Spa-Francorchamps is, the weather does always play a part, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a very nice saying, you know, just if you don't like the current weather in the Eifel, wait 5 minutes and it's probably going to change. And, I mean, the best example is from quite a few years ago when a friend of mine, Maximilian Hackländer, was racing for Audi in the GT3s at the Nurburgring 24 Hours. We were just doing our club slalom around 200 kilometers away by air, and it was a nice, just already summery evening with 25 degrees, and we just went, oh yeah, how's Maxi doing? Oh, they stopped the race because it was snowing.
Yeah, that reminds me of the ADAC Nurburgring 24 Hours where it hailed and everything just went to a stop.
Yeah, that was the race.
Oh, there you go. It's such a small world here in the world of motorsport. And there's Christian Malocek in the number 95, running in the Rinaldi Racing colours. A very well-known team within not just GT Racing, but also the ADAC GT Masters, which still to this day provides one of the most ultra-competitive GT3 classes, in my honest opinion, having been able to watch it firsthand trackside as we go on board with the 95. So now heading down into what is effectively the Dunlop corner before now going up the gears. And you can hear this lovely turbocharged V8 roar its way up through the Michael Schumacher S's. And Nico, it's about getting it right through that particular section, because that really can be the difference between mucking up a lap or putting the perfect lap together, even though we both know that you never will get a perfect lap in pre-practice or qualifying.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, you're perfectly right there, because if you just lose a little bit of momentum up that hill, of course, these cars have quite a lot of power, but nevertheless, you still need all of the momentum that you can get to get the best perfect way up the straight to these next two corners, left and right-hander, before it finally goes back downhill. Now around the last corner. Don't know if he's on a flying lap right now, but let's see as he comes around the corner here.
Yeah, comes around the corner.
There we are.
Yeah, best effort so far. Does not increase in terms of position, but still remains behind Nathan Thomas in the number 7 Porsche. So it's Audi versus. So it's basically Ingolstadt versus Stuttgart versus Maranello. 3 different manufacturers, and then you add Gaydon in the UK for Aston Martin. Obviously, there's a lot of buzz now because Sebastian Vettel has now been seen going to his new team for 2021, the Aston Martin Cognizant F1 racing team, as I think that was Oscar Saristo going a bit wide. I think, the Alpine has a rally heritage, but when it's a GT4 car, I'm really, really sorry to say we don't want any Matthias Ekström in DTM impersonations, especially if you're going through the Spitzkehrer, as Gary Paffett found out a few years ago when it was Audi versus Mercedes. I remember that because I was there at the time. But Dan Ginchard leading the timesheets in GT4 with a 2-minute 5.124, so he's leading the way at the moment, and obviously with the very different animals that we have on this track here, Nico, where you've got the likes of the GT3, so you can now see that we've got 23, so we've got around about 37 cars on the grid. I mean, that's going to be a pretty good field for what we're in store for tonight.
Oh, definitely. And I think, honestly, the GT4 cars, they will have a more difficult race, I think, because, of course, with the GT3 cars, you have to lap the GT4 traffic quickly. You have to get through as quickly as possible without losing any time. But the GT4 cars, by rules, they only have to just follow their racing line. and just, obviously not turn in when there's already a car already lapping them. But from first-hand experience, being in a slower class compared to top class, in that case LMP1 and LMP2, it's always something that you have to constantly just look in your rearview mirror. You have to constantly be focused that you don't miss anything, because sometimes these guys in the faster class, they just send it down the inside from 5-6 car lengths away. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but they're willing to take that bet.
It seems like the love is out for our broadcast director this evening, Justin Mifsud, courtesy of Hungary's very own Gergely Kunsabo in the number 11 Ginetta, who's currently P27 overall. So that would put the number 11 Ginetta G55 GT4 to around about 4th place in the class at the moment, as we go into the last 4 and a bit minutes of this session. And when I look at the corner names of this track, Nico, Haughaken, Mercedes Arena, the corner formerly known as Waldsteiner Kurve. I don't know if it's still named that now. The NGK Chicana, the Coca-Cola Kurve at the end of it. And this is the very track last season where Lewis Hamilton equaled the record of 91 race victories alongside Michael Schumacher. And it's a great track to race around, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And overall, of course, with F1 it's a little bit difficult because of the immense aero wash they have right now. But luckily we don't have that problem here with GT3 cars. Except for, maybe what I've heard quite a lot from people who are driving this car. Fittingly in picture, the Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, which seemingly has so much downforce, that it actually gets affected quite a lot by dirty air. But other than this exception, we have the possibility to follow each other quite closely in these cars, and with GT4 even more so, because those things basically have no downforce at all.
Yeah, because they're effectively taken off the shelf from the production line and then turned into as near as damn it, a production-based racer for the track. And like the Alpine. That's when they brought that out on the DLC. So, now that was one of the Bentleys. Now I'm trying to recognise the driver behind that one, but that just shows the closing speeds that not just the GT3 drivers will have to deal with coming up to back marker traffic, but then it's about the GT4s also getting out of the way whilst the GT3s are trying to get past. So it's about a bit of cooperation from both sides.
Yeah, for sure. And the best thing is if you just already know your way around the other drivers, which by this point I think we have a lot of usual drivers here, so we don't have too many newcomers here. A lot of the guys know how they race each other, so I think we won't have too much trouble with that. And overall, I think a lot of these guys, generally all of them, I'd say, they know what they're doing, so they shouldn't have too big of trouble. But of course, this is racing. We'll have 1 or 2 heated situations during the race for sure.
Yeah, as long as they don't do a Kimi Räikkönen, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing situation, will be absolutely fine. But then we've got Sander Palu in the colours of the Modulo Drago Corse Honda NSX GT3, running in 18th position. So the top 3 at the moment in GT4, with just over a minute and a quarter remaining in the free practice session before we turn our attention to qualifying. It's Daniel Ginchard leading in this class at the moment, ahead of GT Omega RPM Esports very own Dean Vella, and then Oscar Saristo, the Finnish driver in the number 9 Alpine A110 SGT4. They're covered by about 1.1 seconds as all. That was nigh on. It's a shame we're not at Suzuka, because I definitely would have called that more of a Tokyo drift from that Honda just about then going through the corner. But it's going to give us an idea, really, here, Nico, of just how competitive qualifying will be, because the drivers are really getting a feel for the track. But as we said, with the Eifel, you get that microclimate. There is a possibility that at any particular moment in time, the rain could come down, as that looks to be a Honda off the exit of the NGK Chicana that has actually gone sideways and definitely come a cropper there. But this is going to be a real test, irrespective of what the weather brings, because it's such a demanding circuit here, the Nurburgring.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, either way, it's already quite tricky because you have this wide track, and quite a lot of the times, especially in the Mercedes arena, for example, you will end up going 2 wide or 3 wide through corner sections, and it's quite difficult overall, I'd say, to just constantly judge it properly because you have this very wide track. It's always with marbles and all that, and even when it's not raining or in some cases snowing, it's going to be quite difficult to just keep that under control because, of course, marbles on slick tires, they will keep your car slidey for the next couple of corners, and that is quite difficult to keep the hang of, as we have Pedro Gomez here just showing one of the issues that people will have to face in the Michael Schumacher S, because, for example, as we saw here, the gravel, you just touch it barely and you lose around half a second the remainder up the hill.
Yeah, so we're going on board with the number 43, Bentley Continental GT3 with Pedro Gomez. Currently P12 in this session. The checkered flag is out for the 15-minute free practice session before we go into the depths of qualification ahead of the 90-minute multi-class here on World Pro Racing with Alex Goldschmidt and Nico Hilbrand, your commentators for tonight. And the Bentley now comes out of the Coca-Cola corner and comes across the line and will remain in 12th on a 1-minute 57.075. But the interesting thing, Nico, that we saw was the time differential between Luke Whitehead and Daniel Ginchard, the respective leaders in GT3 and GT4, a 10-second differential between both classes. And people might say, oh, that isn't really that much between the pair of them. But then you look at the bigger picture. When it comes to the race, and the GT3s are going at least 2 to 3 seconds a lap quicker than maybe what they were in free practice with a full amount of fuel in and a full set of, a new set of tyres on there when they go out there to race. That's going to be rather interesting to see what the dynamic brings to it.
I mean, for sure as well, but you also have to think about they will not always have this perfect lap time. And that is the thing where I think the variation in racing, that is going to be the very interesting part here. Because in GT4s, generally they're more small, more nimble, and, with exception of the BMW M4 or the Chevrolet Camaro, for example. But a lot of the times, the Alpine, the Cayman, they're all smaller cars. So you're looking at cars that can more easily go too wide and more easily lose time. And not lose as much time as well while going side by side up the Michael Schumacher, for example. So people will be more encouraged to do these sort of moves while racing. So, of course, it's going to be a very dynamic time loss in between the classes. But also the GT3s, they're going to be fighting amongst each other. So we'll really have to see how many laps it'll actually take. And, of course, not everyone has the leader pace. We just saw the fastest laps. And, of course, from last place, for example, in GT4, that car is quite considerably slower if it's unlucky or if it gets damaged or anything. So they'll have to look out that they just get lapped at a comfortable place as well.
I think sort of looking at the track map itself, there's so many different ways in which you can absolutely do a fantastic overtake, whether it be up the inside, around the outside. Hulk Harken, basically turns 1 and 2, going into the Mercedes arena. You come out of the Hulk Harken and you literally you go down to Valvoline, the run from 4 to Dunlop. Those are perfect opportunities where you can really get the slipstream. As now we are back underway, and this time it is for qualification. From your aspects as a driver, where are the biggest gains that you can make up places here at Nurburgring?
It's a difficult one. I'd say definitely one of the very, very big ones is, of course, the run into turn 1, into the Mercedes arena, because if you get the braking properly, you can make a move that just completely sticks into the Mercedes arena. But the problem with that is, if you just don't get it done, because, of course, it's this very steep drop off camber, that the car just smashes down onto the underbody on. And sometimes that does lose your momentum, so the other car, which you just outbraked and you wanted to out-accelerate, they just get a bit more momentum. And then for the entirety of the Mercedes arena, those two are just completely side by side then, and no expletives given, they're just going to stay side by side the entire time. Another thing, of course, is down Mühlenbach, just before the Michael Schumacher S.
Yeah.
It's down a long hill, and perfect. Once again, it's a long hairpin. You can do a lot of different lines into that without losing too much time. Some people even do it more with a V line. A lot of people, of course, with the normal racing line is just outside, inside, outside. But with that corner, depending on how good your car is, how good the rotation is. For example, with a Lexus, which isn't so good on a tight rotation, you can try to go it on a V, take it like a V. So basically, just let yourself fall in deep into the apex, and then just get it rotated at once, step on the throttle, and send it out there. That works as well, and that works surprisingly well sometimes with overtaking moves.
I think also some of the other cars that we need to look at, both in GT3 and GT4. Of course, I have to mention one word: Porsche. Rear-wheel drive, rear engine. So effectively, the Porsche will have the advantage of the traction coming out of the corners. So when you rotate, the front end could be a little bit understeery, but when you've got all the weight over the back end, you can turn the car in, rotate it, and it's going to help the drivers like, say, Marcus Littlewood, who's in the Porsche 911 GT3R, Dan Ginchard, who's in the Cayman 718 GT4 Club Squad. Those cars could be rather good for those drivers, as long as you get the apexes, the turning in points, the throttle application coming out of the corners completely correct.
Yeah, overall that would be one of the strengths, of course. The slow speed corners where they can just get all the rotation done at low speed and then accelerate out of it. Of course, the Porsches are going to be best there, even if technically the Cayman already counts as a mid-engine, even though the engine is still quite far back. But even so, the Cayman is one of the lightest cars, but also with quite a lot of power. So GT3 is, of course, around 500 to 600 horsepower all the time, with around the same weight class, of course. But with GT4, there was this possibility for all the manufacturers to just take these different approaches. For example, like Alpine, with a 1.8-liter turbocharged four-cylinder engine with around 360 to 380 horsepower, depending on the BOP. And then you have McLaren, which is the heaviest car out of everything. I think even heavier than GT3 cars, actually, than most GT3 cars at least, with 1.4 tons, with that big twin-turbo V8 with 570 horsepower. And of course, the Alpine with, I think, around a ton there. That's 400 to 500 kilos of weight difference, depending on the BOP. So that is something to look forward to, of course.
Well, definitely. I mean, that's a very, very good point. You mentioned power to weight ratio. We also have to factor in center of gravity. Because effectively, this is effectively going to be a 90-minute sprint, from my honest estimation here. They've got to refuel on every pit stop. That means that the drivers will go, and they can take the pit stops at any time. There's no pit stop window as far as I'm aware. So that can really, really eke out the strategies. Some people might decide to go a little bit longer in the first stint, fill the tank up, get to about maybe, say, a quarter, fill it up with maybe another 20, 25 litres, keep the performance there. But that's going to affect the centre of gravity, because as soon as you get tyre degradation, the rubber's going to, the carcass of the tyre is going to start throwing those marbles off of the racing line. And then as soon as the weight transfer happens when the fuel gets burned off, the car's centre of gravity is going to go up and up and up. Even though it might be a couple of millimetres here or there, it's still going to lose the drivers that little bit of time, isn't it?
Yeah, that's for sure. Of course, it's also going to lose weight a bit. So a lot of people, I think, that qualify at the front, they put in a little bit more fuel. Quite honestly, that's what I would do, because you have this wonderful dynamic now. You have this chance to completely just play the game after your own rules, and just if you have the chance to put 25, 20, 30 liters more in at the start, then you have that little bit more of a dynamic. You can just dictate what way the race moves just a little bit better, so you're not completely stuck on this 30-minute rhythm.
Yeah, so we're back to qualifying with about just over 7 minutes to go in the session, and we're with Alessandro Iadicola in the number 77 Bentley, currently running P6 at the moment. Dean Vella currently leading the way in GT4 in the number 54 Porsche, and he is about 0.4 of a second quicker than the number 37 of Daniel Ginshard, who's currently in the pits. Sheldon Scott Muscat rounds out the top 3. And there is Dean Vella in the lovely liveried GT Omega RPM Esports Porsche. Kun Sabo, Nathan Mifsud rounding out the top 5. Tom Otti, Tanel Cassis Salu. You've also got Daniel Stremer, Janar Titus, and then Felix Zef there, rounding out the top 10 with Hackett, Jamsalan, Saristo, and Johnson not yet having set a respective lap time. And then we go to Nathan Thomas from the PC Boys Esports crew in the number 7 Porsche 911 GT3R, the 991-2 variety. And he's currently P3, but it is effectively a British 1-2-3 at the moment. Marcus Littlewood, who took the first victory of the 2021 season in the casual races, actually leading the way on a 1:53.691. He won our first race of the season back at the GT3 casual race at Zolder. Luke Whitehead, he's had some dramas, especially when he had problems with his steering wheel on the last casual race just a week ago. He's back in action, and he's up to second position. 1:53.892 was his previous lap time. There's Andrea Rizzo in the 762 Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT3. This is powered by a twin turbocharged 4-litre V8 provided by Mercedes. So it is an AMG lump underneath there, and obviously Aston Martin Cognizant F1 team being powered by Mercedes power units, having made the transition from BWT Racing Point as of from 2020 to 2021. And just between the top 5, I thought qualifying was going to be a little bit closer here in GT3, Nico, but down to Yadekola, the gap between the top 5, with Littlewood leading the way on provisional pole with 4 minutes and 40 still to go, they're covered by about a second. You would have thought that maybe it might have been a little bit closer than that, but it's going to happen during the next 4 and a bit minutes as to who ups the ante on the timing sheets.
Yeah, I think it's also dependent quite a lot on if they actually got clean laps in, because I'm going to be honest, the GT4 field, despite being smaller than the GT3 field, it's still quite sizable. And with other GT3s, of course, you know, you have this typical, blue flags, let me through, it's qualifying, with GT3 cars amongst each other. But of course, in GT4, it's even more critical, because those guys are on laps, and of course they are pumping out their fastest lap time. But as you said earlier, that's still going to be 10 seconds off at best. And that is just the difficulty. It's just find a clean bit of air, which Marcus Littlewood by now doesn't quite have as well, of course, because now he is right behind that Ferrari. He has to go down the inside, and therefore already has to make a little compromise for the entrance of the corner, and you can see it on the exit. Yeah, not quite patient, and understandably so.
Probably a bit of a sense of frustration creeping in there as well, because I can see Alex Johnston just behind, a couple of cars, a car behind Marcus Littlewood in the number 12 Porsche as we go through into the chicane, the NGK chicane, before the Coca-Cola corner. And, currently on a 1:53.691. Can he push the Porsche a little bit further in terms of performance? Comes across the line. That was a 1:55.209, and exactly like you said there, Nico, that Marcus had to compromise and get his way through in order to get some clean air. But hopefully this lap here will be a bit more consistent as we head to Josef Dobbs from Germany in the JD Racing 83 Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo.
Quite a machine, that thing. Actually, one of the more interesting things for the people who are interested in this, they reworked the aerodynamics completely, as I had hinted towards before, but also, so the car is just a little bit more gentle in the situation of bottoming out. They have a spring under the underbody, so the spring absorbs a little bit of shock, so in case it just goes over an anti-cut or something a bit harder, it should keep the car from being damaged, you know, in the same regions as cars that don't have that mechanism. So yeah, Mercedes really bring out some new ingenuity here with that Evo stage.
It sounds like a motorsport equivalent of a pogo stick, what you've just described right there. But the good thing is,
Basically right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the thing is that in motorsport, the circuits are our playgrounds. So there you go, a bit of layman's terminology for you people there at home watching here. A big thank you to everyone joining us here on World Pro Racing. Don't forget, you can follow us on, you can like us on Facebook. We are on Twitter and on Instagram. You can head to worldproracing.com to find out about all the relevant events, which I'll go through in just a few moments' time. But we are building more races here on World Pro Racing through a variety of different platforms. R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione, which we are with right now, and of course Gran Turismo Sports, amongst others. A lot is happening here at World Pro Racing, and ever since World Pro Racing started up back in 2017, we've now got an international commentary team, a state-of-the-art broadcast. As you can see right now, we've got some fantastic partners on board. As now, you know what's really interesting here, Nico? Dean Vella has been on an absolute binge of speed, and he's about to cross the line once again. Puts in a 2-minute 9.324, but Daniel Ginchard thought it was probably not. Oh, it's not always best to qualify on pole position when you head into the Haughaken on turn 1, is it?
Yeah, it definitely isn't. It's a quite difficult position to be in because, of course, you're the prime time target to be attacked. But I think with the GT4s, there's going to be additional difficulty here because they have this angry field of GT3s right in front of them. And quite honestly, if I know anything about the first corner at Nurburgring, is that when there's 20 plus GT3s going in there, 2 wide, 3 wide, sometimes even 4 wide, there's probably a crash nearby at some point. So maybe the GT4s will have to just pick themselves through the minefield of leftover debris later as well.
Yeah, especially when the Haughaken is modified for the ADAC 24 hours of the Nürburgring. When you see 3 to 4 GT3 cars going wide into T1, it is a sight quite unlike any other. We're probably going to have that tonight as we hit 0 on the timer for qualifying here at the 90-minute multi-class of the Nürburgring here on World Pro Racing. Marcel has gone 6th, Patel 8th as Alex Johnson goes rally crossing and then some in his Porsche. So that was that lap aborted, but you can see there the times for what is effectively the GT3s, with Marcus Littlewood taking pole position from Luke Whitehead on the front row by 0.2 of a second. Alex Johnston and Nathan Thomas, that's a lockout by the Brits in GT3 on the top 2 rows ahead of Yadikola and Malkacek, and then Romanik, Patel, Dobbs, Orhak, they round out the top 10 positions. And then Dean Vella takes pole position in qualifying for the GT4s, a 2-minute 4.605 by the number 54, Dan Ginchard. Nathan Mifsud makes it a Porsche 1-2-3, followed by Oscar Saristo from Finland in the number 9 Alpine. Sheldon Scott Muscat will start from 5th in GT4 ahead of Gergely Kunsabo, as there is Lucas Romanik from Onyx Esports. And that concludes the session. So, Nico, your thoughts ahead of the first multi-class race here on World Pro Racing in 2021? I think we're in for a rather big treat, aren't we?
It's going to be very interesting for sure. And I think the Porsche 1-3 in GT4, I think that's it's not quite the final result that we'll see, I feel, because Saristo in the Alpine, he's barely a 10th behind and 4th. And quite honestly, the Porsche in qualifying in GT4, it's quite a weapon, but it can be beaten in the race for sure. And the same goes for the race situation in GT3, because we have Porsche, Audi, Porsche, but the Bentley is quite good over the race distance, can refuel quite a bit less. And I'm not quite sure anymore if we have to do a tire swap for the mandatory pit stops. But for example, if you're just going for a refueling, in that case, the Bentley will definitely have the edge there.
Yeah, it is refueling on both pit stops. It's mandatory. It is down to the driver's discretion as to whether they take tyres. So we could see the possibility, well, they may do the first couple of stints on those tyres and then swap them to a fresh set for their final stint. But then the thing is, Nico, is that when we get to the tail end of the race, get to about half an hour still to go, and some drivers have made one pit stop, but they're leaving that window of opportunity to get their final pit stop in, get themselves back on a fresh set of tyres, get some more fuel in the car, and go after those in front. It could really make all the difference when these drivers pull that strategy card and literally no one sees it coming.
Yeah, that is just the thing. You just always have to think about when you just pull out your final ace in the hole. And honestly, this is why I love 90 minutes. It's the perfect mix between endurance and sprint. And especially with this format of 2 mandatory pit stops, you can really just completely tackle the race your own way. It's always just very adaptive. And quite honestly, with the typical Eiffel weather, sometimes waiting for the last pit stop a little bit longer maybe saves your bottom.
Yes, well, things are about to get underway here. The first multi-class race here on World Pro Racing for 2021. It's Littlewood from Whitehead on the front row of GT3, and then it's Vela versus Ginchard on the front row of GT4. Ladies and gentlemen, are we ready? Are we steady? Well, the drivers are ready. The virtual grandstands here, around 150,000 capacity. Green, green, green. We are racing here, and look at Johnston sneak up the inside of Littlewood as it's an absolute brilliant flying start from Luke Whitehead as they head into the Haugaken for the first time. Johnson on the back bumper of Whitehead. And you can just see the amount of drivers trying to push through as the Adicola runs wide, coming through the Haugaken for the first time into the Mercedes Arena. So that is Nathan Thomas behind Marcus Littlewood in the battle for third position, and that looks to be Lucas Romanek. Oh, touch from Thomas on Littlewood there, but good, actually a very, very good bit of driving there from Thomas to let him back. As there's more drama behind, and there's a Lexus in the barriers. Lexus in the barriers on the right-hand side of the circuit, and I've got a feeling that's the 42 of Payne that has ended up being turned around by one of the Porsches, and that was Yazzie Unas. All clumsy first lap for a few drivers there. Well, who'd have thought that one?
No, for sure, but that is just one of the things that can happen with all these GT3 cars here. And of course, a lot of people are desperate to make up positions. And actually, as I just looked down the order there, I see a lot of GT4 cars mixed into the GT3 field. So that is going to be very interesting as it just progresses through the rest of this first lap and the beginning of the second lap.
So at the moment, GT4 now actually being led by Ginchard, as you've got Mifsud, Muscat and Vela, and then Stramair. That's the top five in GT4 at the moment. I think I did see Ohak in the Audi a little bit wide coming out of possibly what might have been Advan or Warsteiner, as Renaud Hesse goes defensive on the number 78 Bentley, and that is of Lucaraya from the Nord-Est Racing team. Ohak just behind in the number 13 Audi. And then you got Yesny, Painter, Stiegfort, Palou, Leigritzen, Albrecht. Ginchard in the top 20 is Littlewood. Now battling away with, that is the 295 of Patel, Vishal Patel. And then Nathan Thomas, the Adicola Romanik, rounding out the top few places as Nathan Mifsud under attack from Dean Vella going into the Haugaken. Porsche versus Porsche, side by side. Vella's got the inside run on the number 4 and looks to get the run, but going into the Mercedes Arena, Mifsud might have the opportunity to get the cutback, which he does, and right on the back bar behind him they've got Pripana in the Ferrari just behind, and I think there is another Porsche that's...
Yeah, just Jonas with the GT3 right behind that.
Yep, and so these two GT3, so good spatial awareness there by Dean Vella, just actually flashing to Nathan Mifsud and Sheldon Muscat just up ahead saying, look guys, there's GT3 traffic coming, watch your 6. 1 hour, 26 minutes and 50 seconds still remain in the race as Vishal Patel is ahead of Nathan Thomas. Yadik Kola being chased down by Romanek in the 23. Maharek in the number 90. Malsharek in the 95. There's Reino Hesse being passed around the outside. Now, that was a move that I didn't see coming through Michelin by Luca Haya. That was... I've never seen that before. And Bentley versus McLaren. Bentley definitely came on top on that one.
Yeah, that is definitely one of the things. Bentley, despite the big size, it's actually a relatively light car. So it's also arguably very good on the brakes. And that is a Mercedes just going off in the background there, as the rest of them just makes it through. But yeah, we could see a lot of people side by side there. That is Enzi Isne. And just very, very difficult, of course. We saw a lot of people just sort of slide wide there as they went too wide. And Isne maybe just getting a little bit misled there, gets into the marbles and then onto a bit of the bumpy stuff, as Pedro Gomez now has a little bit of bumpy stuff with the McLaren of Ressa to make it past. But yeah, it's just very difficult to keep a constant line through that fast version.
Oh, massive moment. Reino Hesse into the back of Gomez there, and Ohak was waiting in the wings. It was 3 into the Mercedes arena, and Pedro Gomez in the Bentley turfed out and exited stage right. But luckily enough, I would think that there may be a possible penalty coming the way of Reino Hesse in the number 690 McLaren 720 SGT3. As Lucas Romanek gets a tag from Yannick Kohler, and right through the middle of that goes Malsharek and Dobbs, and then, oh my goodness me, it's getting I think there is a surge of desperation happening here, and there are 2 Bentleys, literally. Yannick Kohler has been in the wars, and then I think that might be a higher that might be with them. I'm not 100% sure. Same sort of livery. So Yannick Kohler again has dramas in GT3 here on World Pro Racing. 1 hour 24 minutes and 28 seconds. I did notice that a GT3 car might have had, and I think we are getting a first penalty of the race. Race control or race director Adrian Figaro, who is an FIA accredited steward on an international platform, is currently telling us he's also got our race steward alongside him, George Muscat, with Justin Mifsud on broadcast duty as our director here. So we'll wait. And okay, incident 762 Rizzo and 63. Rizzo gets a drive through for causing an avoidable collision. So that's the first drive-through handed out by Race Control tonight. And I don't think, Nicole, that is going to be the last we hear of it, because it seems like another one is about to hit very, very shortly. And that's how tricky it can be here at the Nurburgring, can't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is just, as you said at the beginning, because we saw a quite chaotic start. And yeah, I think people will be counting their lucky stars if they get through this without a penalty. So, of course, at the start of each field, they will have been quite clean. But in all of this chaos, Ginchard just completely left the rest of the GT4 field behind, and even still keeping 2 GT3s right behind him.
Well, he did have a podium last week. His first podium. He's made a couple of appearances on the casual racing side of things, but he's also taking part in the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series Season 2, which heads to Misano for the halfway point this coming Friday, the 29th of January, is all 3 wide, as there is Rizzo and Enzi Esni going side by side through into Dunlop. Esni round the outside, but Rizzo up the inside and takes 21st position. And good spatial awareness by Dan Ginchard there to get through, and he leads the GT4 class by just under 5.3 seconds. And you've got quite a few drivers, possibly out of what we would see in terms of customary position, because there is an Audi GT3 back marker. Okay, Yazionas 69 gets a drive through for causing an avoidable collision, and that was on the number 42 of Jake Payne from Vance Racing. So 2 drive-throughs now out. Oh, I've just spotted here within the first 10 minutes, Nico, Nathan Thomas is now in pit lane.
Yeah, that's quite early. I'm going to be honest, I think... look at that car, actually, though. That is quite scraped up. Maybe he's just coming in for minor repairs, but also just refueling. And if he had, perhaps, some scrapes already and maybe a bit of too much sliding, maybe he's just coming in, changing tires now to run the rest of the race with them.
I think you might be right there, but he did actually have a little bit of a touch with Marcus Littlewood, didn't he, earlier on in the race? So that's where the damage has come from. So he's thinking, I'm going to get the car repaired, get it back out on the circuit, and just go hell for leather. So that's going to be rather interesting. As we're on to lap number 5, Luke Whitehead leads Alex Johnston by 2.2 seconds. There is Jake Payne, who is currently in 27th, but as a result of the drive-throughs for Yaziunas, who effectively carried on, didn't do the sportsmanlike thing because it would have been looked a bit more favourably by race control. And yeah, you can see that Thomas, I think, repairing damage. He'll come out probably. He's actually, due to the amount of damage that car has sustained and what he's repairing, Thomas is now outside of the top 25 overall. There's Renaud Hesse. The McLaren gets a bit out of shape going into the NGK chicane, and that's going to give David Ohak opportunity to go up the inside with about 10 minutes completed. So the number 13 goes up to 10th position as we ride on board with the Audi R8 LMS Evo, and then there is Renaud Hesse, and that car there, that's very close in the braking zone there, wasn't it, Nico?
Yeah, a little bit, but that's just one of the things about the first corner. You have that little bit of a kink, leads downhill, and it encourages people to be very optimistic under braking. Of course, that can lead to quite some awkward collisions and just other awkward situations.
Yeah, well, I've just seen that Nathan Thomas has disposed of 2 GT3s and a GT4 car, 2 GT4s and a GT3, like literally with one move. So that car, that Porsche 911 GT3R 991-2, is going to be up to full speed. And now he's got just in front of him Dean Vella and Oscar Saristo. And there is Tanel Cassis Salu that's battling with Felix Zeff in the KTM Crossbow GT4, used in the Reiter Engineering Young Stars program, which had the likes of Naomi Schiff and Caitlin Wood amongst their alumni, amongst others. And of course, there's the new KTM Crossbow. I think it's the GT2 that's coming out, and that looks even more like a Leviathan of any sort of car. But you can now see the gap between Alex Johnston and Marcus Littlewood comes down to about 4 and a bit tenths of a second as they head into the Hagen on lap number 7. And these drivers really putting on a bit of a show. And there is Pripana battling away with Rizzo, who's yet to serve the drive-through handed out by race control. And the number 63 was Wojciech Neuwirth down in the 63. That was the back marker Audi we saw a bit earlier on. Neuwirth currently down in 25th position. And then we go to Malacek, who's now got Lukas Romanek just behind for close company. So Ferrari versus Aston Martin. And then not too far back in the distance is Alessandro Iaricola. So some good battling here. And then they've got Josef Dobbs just from Germany just up ahead. So this is effectively a four-way scrap for what is 5th place on the road, as now we head back to Littlewood versus Johnston, going through the Michael Schumacher S's and up towards the left-hander at Michelin before the right-hander at Warsteiner. And it's really good to see that in equal machinery they're both pushing like crazy. And if I'm honest here, Nico, Luke Whitehead, even though the Audi is about a couple of seconds up the road, these two seem to be working together, not fighting amongst each other at the moment, before they want to get that battle really underway, aren't they?
I think, to be honest, Littlewood right now, he's just being a bit cautious because he saw what happened to Nate Thomas, and that's just not what you want right at the start of the race, especially since the Porsche, with the very famous rear engine layout, at high-speed corners it needs all the front downforce it can get, so the last thing he wants is to get some front downforce damage. So I think right now he's just trying to stay behind Johnston without doing too much trouble, and then at some point make his way past, get closer to Whitehead again, and just let the rubber burn until he can't no more.
Very true. Third drive-through of the evening now handed out by Race Control. Janar Titus on Tom Otti, 67 on 70. Titus gets a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact. So the third drive-through of the evening, and it looks like, for some strange reason, Rizzo has not served the drive-through penalty, and the system has automatically disqualified the 762 Aston Martin. So it's 3 laps that you have to serve that within that penalty, and so I don't think Rizzo kept an eye on the lap counter.
Yeah, probably not. I have to inject a little bit of side jabbing to my past here with ACC. It's not that unusual for me to see the 762, not with Rizzo involved, to get disqualified in a race here, because SRO Esports at the Nurburgring, the driver of the 762 got disqualified as well after not attending the briefing and causing a few incidents on lap 1. So yeah, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Well, some things do never change, eh, Nico? But we're about half an hour away. Alex Johnson having a massive moment and collects one of the GT4s, and that is was that Sheldon Scott Muscat flying his way through the NGK chicane?
Yeah,
Johnson having a moment with perfect avoidance. Well done, but Alex Johnston caught unawares by one of the Ginetta GT4s. I did say closing speeds were going to be an issue, and it caught Alex Johnston out big time.
Yeah, definitely. Just seemingly didn't have that situation before, or just completely didn't anticipate it. But Marcus Littlewood was going to say, thank you very much, I'll take that freebie. Yes, that definitely opened the door. You know what they say, you give someone an inch, they'll take a country mile, and that's exactly the opportunity that Marcus Littlewood needed. But the driver that I feel sorry for, I wonder who that was in terms of the Ginetta that got literally assaulted from behind quite spectacularly there. I think Alex Johnson just missed his braking point and just got caught out big time. But that's going to possibly give the opportunity maybe to Vishal Patel to close on the 2:48. But, you know, the biggest thing now here, Nico, is the fact that that's going to be a case that Johnston's going to have damage on the front of that car, and that's going to upset the aero balance. Not just that, but he's, I'd say, also going to get a penalty there. And actually, looking back, I think... I don't think it was that Ginetta, because we had...
Yeah, Kunsabo's in a red livery. I think it was Steve Johnson. Because if he's got a darker blue livery, as Janar Titus, being swamped by quite a few cars, including that was the number 77 Bentley, so Janar Titus from Estonia. You can see the front end of that GT4's had a bit of a run-in with something, maybe another car, and that was through the incident with Otti. But Dan Ginchard at the moment, still keeping it nice and calm and collected. He's running just over 2.5 tenths of a second off of his fastest lap. But the biggest thing here is, Nico, is that he's keeping it rather consistent, because he's got 2 Porsches not too far behind. Nathan Mifsud in second, and then Dean Vella in third. So it's a Porsche 1, 2, 3. But Oscar Saristo in the number 9 Alpine, not too far behind the number 55 Porsche by about 8.5 tenths of a second. So you said about the Porsches, they were dominant in qualifying, but Saristo is just winding up the wick on that Alpine at the moment.
Yeah, that is just the nice thing about the Alpine. It's just so small, nimble, and quick. you can just constantly throw it into the corner without too much tire wear as well. And that is one of the things that is actually quite important as well when you have a heavier GT4 car. Tire wear. And that is why a lot of people, including me, lovingly call the McLaren 570 as the school bus, because it weighs so much and the tires on that just don't feel that grippy at all, as we just quickly have Alex Johnston switching over to Morse code and disappearing through the tire wall there for a second, but luckily he stays with us on the server.
Yeah, Luke Whitehead continues to lead now on lap number 10 of this 90-minute multi-class here on World Pro Racing with Alex Goldschmidt and Nico Hildebrand, your official commentators for tonight's action. Don't forget, if you want to sign up for any future events, you can head to worldproracing.com for further information. Oh, and that's a GT3 going sideways. I think that was Romanek there. As he gives a touch to Hackett, and then the Ferrari on the outside gets a little bit of a touch there, and that's definitely going to be investigated by race control, I fear.
Yeah, I think that will probably be investigated indeed. I think first of all, the Mercedes, I'm even saying, of course the thing has a Mercedes engine, but it's of course an Aston Martin, comes over under braking a bit, throws itself a bit wide, and then misses its braking point and pinballs the Porsche Cayman into the Ferrari. The Cayman sadly being the one carrying the most suffering from that.
Yeah, instead of Piggy in the middle, it was Porsche in the middle here at the Nurburgring. I think that would have been Romanek and probably, that would have been the 95. That would have been the 95 Ferrari, I believe, in 8th position. Malsharek that had to take avoiding action, which was the case. And that has given an opportunity to Alessandro Iadicola in the number 77 Bentley. As the GT3 leader overtakes and puts a lap down on the GT4 leader. So Whitehead leading GT3, Ginchard leading GT4 at the moment. So some of the events that are coming up. So we've got the ACC Sprint Series this Friday at 8:30 p.m. Central European Time. Round 3 at Misano, which will be broadcasted here on World Pro Racing, as well as with our other broadcast partners, TVM Sports, Motorsport.tv, Esports TV, and of course the race. We'll then have the all-German 2-hour casual race back again here at the Nurburgring on this coming Saturday. And then the first casual race for February 2021 will be the 2nd of February, the Porsche 911 GT3R at Brands Hatch, which I understand my good friend and learned colleague Mr. Nico Hildebrand will be on commentary duties for. We'll then head back to the penultimate round of the Sprint Series, round 4 at Zolder on Friday the 5th for the ACC Sprint Series. And then the Nightmaster at Spa Casual Race on February the 9th, where there is still spots available, around 15 or 16 spots left on the grid. And then the final round of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series Season 2. The pros will then find out who will be the champion and who will be taking home some of that €500 prize fund on Friday the 12th for the final one of Season 2. And that will take place at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps. Another penalty, another drive-through, 4 in a row. Iadicola on Romanek on lap 3 gets a drive-through for causing an avoidable collision. So that's 3 GT3s and a GT4 that have been literally thrown a curveball from the picture there, Nico, and that can make all the difference, because in addition with having to do the 2 mandatory pit stops, if you get a drive-through or you get a stop go 30 after speeding in the pit lane, it can throw the strategy out of the window, can't it?
Oh, that it can definitely. And the big thing with the GT World Challenge and GT4 European Series, which this is of course simulating, is you have the pit speed of 50 kilometers an hour. And of course, for people new to motorsport, this is going to be, basically 50 kilometers an hour, 30 miles an hour, around that distance, around the same. That's just the normal, in-town speed limit that you have. So it's relaxed, you're just driving along, and it shouldn't be that slow, right? But when you're just normally doing around 200 to 250 kilometers an hour, here as we go up the hill now to the Vedol chicane, 221 as that Mercedes sends it down the inside of Dean Vella.
That was Joseph Dobbs, and you were saying about speed limit. Guess who's just got to stop go 30? Jan Artaitis after the drive-through. He's got 4 pit stops to make all in all. Oh my goodness, it's gone from bad to worse for that driver than a 67 Mercedes.
And
we talked about pit stops, and then people are going to say it's commentator's curse. No. Obviously, someone might have forgotten to put on the pit lane limiter. If he's done that and he's booted it coming, I know, because normally, if they go into the pit lane, then normally the first thing you'll do is pit lane limiter, and then the first thing you do is when you get out of the pits, the pit box, if you haven't made sure it's back on again, and then you boot the throttle, you're going to wheel spin, and then all of a sudden you're probably going to go up into second as Iadikola gets the drive-through. Now, I would imagine that is going to be for track limits, because that's automatically been provided by the system software here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. So Iadikola now has an additional pit stop to make. And that's for... Oh, no, that was for his avoidable collision. My apologies there. But
that was down at Mühlenbach.
Yeah, so that's... and good to see Joris Stigvoort from the Netherlands, currently running P14 in what looks to be the sole Nissan on the grid, and is ahead of Matthias Albrecht, and then you've got Paolo Esni, and then Nathan Thomas in the meantime, though, Nico, came out of the pits in around 27th position after repairing all that damage. He's now up into 18th place, and he's closing on Paolo and Yesny, and the blue flags are being waved for the GT4 traffic to get out of the way. So Nathan Thomas, I think, has done the right thing. He's repaired that car, got it back to full fitness, and has decided, you know what, I've got nothing to lose, but everything to gain.
Yeah, for sure. And I think now that the field is spread out a little bit more, with a completely fixed up car, and when you're already there for damage repair, might as well change tires. With fresh tires, new car, new fuel, and as you mentioned the fuel before, in the Porsche it's even more critical because the fuel tank, very unlike most other cars, is in the front. So if you have the fuel in the front, you have a little bit more weight on the front axle, which of course, with that rear engine, you need quite desperately for some corners. But yeah, Nate Thomas, he can just push on through the entire field now. It's a little bit more open now. It's not so many groups battling anymore. And that is just exactly what he needs. He doesn't need any more holding up with battling. Maximum one person at a time, please, he says. And just perfectly with the social distancing rules, he'll just pick his way back up the order one by one, I'd say.
Single file, please. Single file, as they would say. There is Sheldon Muscat. Currently sitting in around about P6 in GT4 at the moment. So actually, funnily enough, it was quite nice to see him racing elsewhere. He was actually at the 2.4 hours of Imola on the sim grid this past Saturday. So had the pleasure of commentating on him, actually. I was there for that event. So good to see that Sheldon's stretching his wings and trying to get his name out there. But we always know that his home away from home is here on World Pro Racing as well. That is the 07 Porsche.
Yeah, that's Nate Thomas making his way to 17th now.
Yeah, that is the case. So Thomas up past Enzi Esni in the number 5. I love the... it's always great when you see such liveries like the Black Falcon liveries. Obviously, a few drivers associated with that team name, the likes of Maho Engel and also Adam Christodoulou, amongst others, as Romanik closing on Josef Dobbs. So, and these two are going into the Haukak, and you can see how quickly Dobbs brakes, but then he goes late braking. Oh, door panel banging into the Haukak, and danger, Josef. You got caught out on that one because Romanik, he knew where to put the Aston Martin and just waited for Dobbs to outbrake himself, and that's exactly what happened into
and that is completely outbraked himself there, though, with the 77, and that McLaren gets spun around.
That was Ressa on and Yadikola. Yadikola hits him, and then Gomez from behind hits Ressa up the rear and spins the McLaren around, and that is going to drop him out of the top 15, I think. Well, that depends on how far behind it has, because Albrecht and Palu are now behind him as Romanik. That looks to be Oscar Saristo in the Alpine in between him and Josef Dobbs and Yadikola. Oh, that was a bit close, going through the Mercedes arena on Gomez there. So, and they've got the Mercedes, I think that's of Sheldon Muscat, not too far behind. So, Yadikola has been in the wars, and I hate to say it, Nico, there is another penalty coming from race control very, very shortly. Adrian Figaro, as always, very, very decisive and firm but fair. And we are using FIA regulations in terms of race control, race analysis. If you are, by the way, watching on our YouTube channel, have a look through our playlist. You'll be able to see if you want to get involved with stewarding. You want to know what's going to happen, all about it. You can maybe subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you're enjoying this video, and also, whilst you're at it, hit the notification bell and set it to all. As you can see, my face just comes up on the camera. That was a bit unplanned there, but the thing is that Adrian and George, our stewarding team, do a fantastic job. Also, of course, Justin Mifsud doing our broadcast directing and cameras this evening. But yeah, I think we're getting some more penalties coming in. We've got Alex Johnston on the 8th. That's the 248. On the 80, that was the 85 Ginetta. So Steve Johnson, I thought that might have been picked up by race control. So Alex Johnston gets a drive-through penalty. That's the 5th one of the night coming to another driver. As now Yadikola pits, Raya pits, Ginshard in the pits. So a lot of drivers now with just under an hour to go. Nico getting their pit stops out of the way. There's Vishal Patel, who's going to be coming out at around 13th, 14th position. And the first driver to incur the wrath of the stewards and race control for not giving way to a car that is lapping them. Dan Hackett in the number 44 gets a 10-second post-race penalty. Dan Ginshard, the leader in GT4, gets hit with a stop-go 30. That is for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, that is just one of these things. You can do everything right, but one little trip up with that 50 kilometers an hour speed limit, it's all it takes. And yeah, your race will look quite brutally different. And yeah, that's just... You just always have to be alert, whether it be a situation with Johnson and Johnson, or whether it's just a simple pit entry. Do one thing wrong, and immediately in this distance, it's going to be affecting your race result very differently.
Yeah, so the server time now has gone to 4:07 p.m. And as a result of both Luke Whitehead and Marcus Littlewood pitting, Lucas Romanik from Onyx Esports now takes the lead of the race. But Nico, you see that weather report up at the top right-hand corner of the screen? That's looking rather dark and ominous there, those clouds.
Yeah, that's quite a few clouds, but one of the little insider things from ACC, from some experience, they shouldn't be worrying about rain too much so far, because right now you can see the wind in the top right at the very, very right there. It's only 1 kilometer an hour right now. Normally it's a quite nice indication that rain clouds are coming when it goes up to over around 10 kilometers an hour with the wind, because the winds are carrying the clouds faster and they're just getting along quicker. So right now I don't think they have anything to worry about, luckily, but of course it's something to keep an eye out for, especially with overcast.
Yeah, and when they say that one good turn never deserves another, Lucas Romanik, drive-through penalty for rejoining the track in an unsafe manner and causing a collision. That was on lap 10. That would have been the incident between him. So Hackett, I think, got a bit too much in the way for race control's liking. So Hackett was Porsche in the middle. He was pinballed from left to right. So Romanek will have to serve a drive-through. Christian Lagertsen has pitted as there's a bit of an off-track excursion. Romanek now will, excuse me, have another pit stop. So he's now got to be absolutely on point. Instigate that pit speed limiter of 50 kph. That's around 30 miles an hour. So he will just go down the pits, and that's going to be about a 30 to 35 second drive-through penalty, if I'm very much mistaken, Nico, around that sort of timescale from the entry to the exit of the Nurburgring.
I'd have to look that back up. Just hit me with that question far out of the left field.
Well, at least it wasn't the curveball coming from the pitcher. That could have been a lot worse. But I think the thing is to drive through. You know, it puts anywhere between half a minute to a minute, depending on the length of the pit lane. You know, say for instance Spa-Francorchamps. You know, you're on a GT3 or a GT4 start. You're starting between La Source and Eau Rouge, so you've got to go all the way through the main pits, all the way round. And, you know, that's where things really get rather interesting is now... Oh! Moment there for Gomes. He was closing on Littlewood and he gets punted to the right-hand side. Oh. You know what? I'm just going to say this. This, I think, has been... In the first race, I think, that we've both commentated since we started working together, that has had the most penalties within a 30-minute span, as Nathan Thomas now is up to P9 with 55 minutes on the clock to go.
I definitely agree there, especially now with all the bonklies bonking each other and getting bonked. But yeah, that was quite something, and Dan Hackett there now looking to go past actually as well, and he's actually in front of Alex Johnston now. So, you know, with the penalties, actually the overall field getting thrown, you know, amidst each other as well, which is quite fun to see because, of course, for overall positions, they don't necessarily have to make some room. And for the GT3s, it can be quite frustrating there, but yeah. We now have the pit rhythm continuing, and I think Romanek should... Yeah, there we are. Now he goes into the pits as well. Just goes in now and now has to deliver his actual pit stop because just now he had to deliver his penalty, which was luckily only a drive-through.
Let's stay on board with Lucas Romanek. You can see that he's the pit limit is active, so he's pressed the button just literally a fraction under 50 kph into the pit box. Slows the car down. As Josef Dobbs from JD Racing from Germany in the number 83 Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo leads the race and is yet to make a mandatory pit stop as of yet. But I think that was the number 19 Ferrari. Kirsten from... I never can get the surname right, and I haven't yet attempted it, and I'm not going to try and cause myself literally... there we go, thank you. Abaya. Thank you, Justin, our broadcast director. I'd rather get it right than get it wrong. So, Kirsten Abaya was the driver involved with, I think, with that contact with Gomez. As Gergely Kunsaba coming under fire from Sheldon Scott Muscat. And that's going through into the Haken. And, Muscat around the outside of the Mercedes arena. That was like being a rat up a drain pipe there from Sheldon Scott Muscat. He literally, we went on board with Gergely Kunsabo and we couldn't see anything of the Mercedes. Then all of a sudden, a wild Mercedes to the right-hand side of the rear spoiler appears. And you can see that that's going to be rather decisive how quickly Sheldon Scott Muscat gets past. But then we've got David Ohak in the number 13 Audi just behind. Muscat gets out of the way. As I think that was the number 4 of... I'm just trying to remember number 4. That might have been of Nathan Mifsud, I believe, that has just been passed by the overall leader. So 52 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. Dobbs leads from Whitehead. Littlewood Gomes, Stiekvoort, Patel, Thomas up into 7th in the number 7 Porsche. Reino Hester in the 690 ahead of Enziesny, who we're with at the moment. And then you've got Malsharek in the number 95 rounding out the top 10 in the Ferrari. There is Nathan Thomas closing up on Vishal Patel going into the Haken with around 51 and 3/4 minutes still to go on the timer. And then Stremer leads the way as Sheldon Scott Muscat gets passed around the outside going into the NGK chicane by Lucas Romanek, who's now trying to filter his way past Gergely Kunsabo, and that happens, and that allows the door to be opened for Sheldon Scott Muscat to go up the inside. I'm not too sure if there was a bit of a touch between the two GT4 cars, but Sheldon Scott Muscat gets past Gergely Kunsabo to now take P2 in GT4.
Yeah, this was just one of the best examples. When you're in the slower class, of course you have to look out for the faster cars, but any gap that is made in front of you by a faster class, of course you can use it for yourself. And Sheldon Scott Muscat just showed that brilliantly by getting past Kunsabo there. And yeah, just I'd give that full marks there.
Yeah, it was definitely getting the opportunity of a lifetime. The door well and truly left open. But I think at the end of the day, though, Nico, that Kunsabo didn't really have any alternative, because Muscat thought, well, if I get out of the way, I'm going to get a gold mine opportunity. As Nathan Thomas now finally passed Vishal Patel. There is Lucaraya in the number 78 Bentley, rounding out the top 11 positions at the moment. A bit further up the road from David Orhak in the number 13 Audi. And you can see now that Dobbs is the Dobbs, Gomez, Stiekvoort. Bit of a moment there for Raya, I just saw going off track. So, and that was heading through from Ford down to Dunlop, I believe. So, bit of a moment there for Lucaraya. And there is Yuri Stiekvoort trying to get past. I think that is the 37. That might be of Ginshard there. He's just got past. So Yuri Stiekvoort, we don't really tend to mention Yuri Stiekvoort unless Yuri is in the issues, in any issues or any contretemps here at the track. But it's been rather nice and neat and comfortable for the Nissan. The number 28 as there was a Lexus just behind going a bit wide. That could have been Steve Painter or Matthias Albrecht in either the number 86 or the 14. And Masharek closing on Enziesny, and then there is a Lexus behind, and we're 4 minutes away from the halfway point of this race as Prit Parna now goes in and serves a first pit stop of the race. So at the moment, Nico, out of the top 10 drivers, half of them still yet to serve their first mandatory pit stop where refueling is required.
Yeah, I'd say, as the situation is right now, I'd say that Littlewood is definitely in a very good position, of course. But Littlewood is quite close behind him, only 10 seconds, and we saw how quickly that can change with these positions here. We saw with Johnston hitting Johnson, arguably quite ironic with the two names so close to each other. The only thing making them even closer to each other being the collision on track. Yeah, these things can just happen in multi-class racing, and it's just something that you always have to look out for. And yeah, Whitehead, as he is of course leading, he has to just stay on top of the situation, make sure that he doesn't get carried away with anything, and just keep going like he is doing right now.
Yeah, just noticed that Casanabaya has now received a drive-through penalty. I would imagine that is probably going to be more than likely for track limits, because it is very tight and twisty here at Nurburgring. 3.199 miles, 5.148 kilometers in track length, as we are back with Luke Whitehead, and that is the 20. So, for those wondering about the numbers in the top left, the top right of the windscreen, is effectively the 3 letters that are assigned to each individual, and then also to the current position at the moment. So Whitehead doing a good job. The interesting thing here, though, Nico, is that Dobbs has yet to pit, and he's on lap 23, and we're fast approaching half time here at the 90-minute multi-class.
I dare imagine that he could try a bit of a curveball here, because if he can get his mandatory pit stop done, maybe just in the last lap, refueling is mandatory, but sometimes people just go for that 1 liter refuel for the very, very end. Maybe he's attempting to do something like that, and that is Yuri Stickford almost getting sent to the shadow realm there through the Advan Bogen, because that is a bit too close for comfort.
Yeah, Nathan Thomas went up the inside, and then that was through Advan. And they both managed to finally get through, but that was a bit close for Yuri Stickford. I don't think he'll be very happy with Vishal Patel's attempt on a move up the inside, because the gap was pretty much closing, and Stickford actually had the right of way, in my honest opinion there. But it's going to be rather interesting how things do proceed. So Stramer leads GT4 at the moment by 6 seconds ahead of Sheldon Scott Muscat. We've got another penalty for Yadi Kola in the 77 on Reino Hesse for that incident at the Coca-Cola curve. Yadi Kola gets a drive-through penalty. Again, that's his second of the race. His race has gone from absolutely bad to worse as we go back to Daniel Stramer, who is actually in the top 20 in the number 1 Mercedes AMG GT4 from GT Omega RPM Esports. And with that being said, we're going to go to a commercial break here on World Pro Racing. We'll be back in just a few moments' time.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet.
wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
Welcome back to continuing coverage of the 90-minute multi-class here on World Pro Racing with Alex Goldschmidt and Nico Hilbrandt, your official commentators for tonight's action. Nico, just Joseph Dobbs, I'm just wondering if we could get an idea of, has he actually pitted yet is the biggest question here, because he's gone really deep into the... No, he hasn't. Lap 27, he's still out there on the circuit. I think... we were waiting for someone to bring that sort of real proper undercut strategy to the mix, and Josef Dobbs from Germany has definitely done that, wouldn't you say?
I think he might even be going for that double just splash and dash there, right after each other maybe, as long as he can just run it long enough. But I know for a fact that he'll have to pit soon, because within the next 10 minutes, next 15 minutes, that Mercedes will be out of fuel, because as long as he isn't running it in map 3, which is one of the ECU maps for the Mercedes, of course, with different power layouts and different fuel consumption. It has 3. 1 is the maximum power, 2 is just normal race map with, of course, a little bit less fuel consumption, and 3 is the lowest fuel consumption. As long as he isn't running it in map 2 or 3, and I think he isn't, judging by his current pace, he will definitely have to pit soon, because that Mercedes, it drinks fuel not in liters per 100 kilometers, it drinks fuel in oil fields.
Yeah, and he's actually running on map 1. I just had a quick look on his dash display there when we had a quick on board. He's running in map 1, so he's definitely going the long haul. Luca Raya is the first of the GT3 drivers, I believe, that served both mandatory pit stops. So the Bentley with that heavier load, but also the increased fuel capacity, definitely having that opportunity, as Pedro Gomes is currently in P9. A good showing from the number 100 Mercedes. That is of Christopher Leigritsen, currently sitting in P10 ahead of Juri Stigvoort. Yazionas in the number 69 Porsche has also taken his final pit stop. Tanel Kasisalu from Estonia has also done both pit stops in the 89 Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 Club Sport. There's Dean Vella from GT Omega RPM Esports in the 54 Cayman, currently running in P1. And so there has been quite a bit of a change. And the biggest difference here is that I have noticed that some of our drivers have gone missing. We're down to 11 out of 14. Dan Ginchard, who was on the front row alongside Dean Vella, not taking any further participation in this race, amongst others. Oscar Saristo down in 7th position. Sheldon Scott Muscat, Daniel Strumer. They're running in 6th, 5th, and 4th and 5th respectively. Nathan Mifsud doing a really good job in 3rd place, but the KTM crossbow of Felix Zef sitting in 2nd place, and is also taking a leaf out of Josef Dobbs' very own playbook, as this is Mifsud side by side with one of the other Porsches. A little bit further back in the field, possibly could be, I think that will be the livery of Kasistalu, which looks to be the case. That's that very reminiscent colour scheme that Tanel actually runs whenever he competes in GT3. As we've got just 35 minutes on the clock, and I'm just going to have a look down the order. Jamsran is still in there at the moment. Tom Otti is not in there either. Janar Titus, I think, has also exited from the race itself as well. So still quite a few drivers here, Nico. But Dean Vella definitely doing the right thing, as the leader now is in the pits, as is Luke Whitehead.
Yeah, and that is actually quite some strategy play here. We also, and actually Whitehead is just coming to a stop there. So, unless Whitehead is doing a very short splash and dash, I think Dobes will come out in front of Whitehead. And of course, Littlewood will be looking at the gaps now. He'll be looking, okay, how do I have to pit now? How will I have to play this to make it work? Because, of course, this is now, well, the final planning phase. And they will have to look out how they will actually play this to the finish line.
Very true there, Nico, as there is Marcus Littlewood in the Omega E Racing Team number 12 Porsche. Currently now is in P1. So Dobbs has now exited the pits, I believe. Luke Whitehead still currently in there at the moment. So we'll be taking on enough fuel and possibly a little bit of additional reserve to get the Audi to the finish line. Where it will end up, no one really knows at the moment. There's Nathan Thomas. On the comeback trail, still has one more mandatory pit stop with a refueling requirement still to make in the next 33.5 minutes of this race, as that is one of the Bentleys just behind. That could be, I think, maybe Lucaraya. And just behind them is Josef Dobbs, as Whitehead now can definitely go for broke. That is Lucaraya in the number 78 Bentley, in between Thomas and Dobbs. Dobbs in the 83 Mercedes. So this is going to be a real interesting battle. Blue flags will be shown, and then the flash of the lights from Josef in the 83. So Thomas now can see the Mercedes with that bright cream white and fluorescent green hue livery on that Mercedes. He knows that his days could be numbered very, very shortly, but both of them, Nico, still have to serve a mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, and that is the really interesting thing to me now. When will they have to serve that? Because Dobbs went quite deep into the race without pitting once. So I'm thinking he probably went for a tire change now. Because let's be honest, when you have driven so long on one stint, it's going to be completely broken. You're not going to want to drive on that. especially after such a long stint. You know, just and either you pit within the first 30 minutes, then go on a new set, or you go for 1 hour and then go on a new set. And quite honestly, at that point, he will probably have the time to refuel to the rest that he needs, and then just come in for one last stop for a minimum of 1 liter, maybe 2 liters, to put into the car just to get that mandatory pit stop out of the way. And of course, that's just a stopping time of, let me just put that out of the top of my head, a second, maybe 2. And of course, that is going to be quite a lot shorter than, for example, Nate Thomas, who's right in front of him now, who might pit again after 30 minutes and who might run more aggressive setups now, so he might change tires again. So yeah, this is just one of the things that is so exciting for me about endurance racing to this level, because of course this is still a sprint race, but there's these endurance aspects where strategy plays quite deep into it already.
Very true. As a little bit earlier on, just about 60 or so seconds ago, Christopher Lagertsen was battling away with Juri Stigfort and Heiner Hesse. We go back to that battle as they now pass one of the Alpines. That is the number 9, and that would be Oscar Saristo, I believe, as they now come through the final corner, the Coca-Cola corner. And Lagertsen in that Mercedes extends a little bit of an advantage. It's about to just under half a second, whereas Stigfort has... Stigfort goes late on the brakes. And then it's 3 wide. Iadi Kola up the inside of Ressa through the Hagen now. Iadi Kola is the one that has had the most drive-throughs of the night. I count. I think it was Iadi Kola got one earlier on in the race. So Iadi Kola had major problems, but it's just really that. These drivers are giving no quarter. As we're into the last 30 minutes, we go on board with the 690 of Estonia's Rainer Ressa in the RHIO Motorsport McLaren 720S GT3 in that very, very, very bright purple livery, heading into Dunlop, having made their way down from the Valvoline and Ford complex through the 180-degree hairpin to the right-hand side. They go through to the Michael Schumacher S's. And you can see he's pushing around 4th gear at about 190 kilometers an hour on the exit of the S's, up towards the left-hander. Down to 2nd gear, 110 kph on the apex. Through into the next right-hander. Up the gears, through now into the right kink at Advan. And we'll be pushing around 220 kph in around 5th gear. Foot flat to the floor. Stigfort coming under fire again from Iadi Kola with Liger. Late break and a half there from Juri Stigfort. He missed his braking point completely. Iadi Kola went up the inside and Hesse up the inside of Stigfort, and Hesse compromises himself, gets a bit of a tank slapper through the Coca-Cola corner, and then just behind you've then got also the number 43 of that was Pedro Crulas Gomez, just behind in the 43 Bentley. So that's really it's now getting to that point, Nico, where the drivers are starting to lose a little bit of that edge in the latter stages of the race, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we noticed that just now with Stigfort there. Late breaks into NGK. Makes a mistake through it, and of course loses a lot of momentum, and Ressa wants to make that most of the opportunity and sends it into the Hyundai N curve, and yeah, just Stigfort slams the door on him, and I think quite honestly Ressa was already alongside there. His front wheel was in front of the rear axle of Stigfort there, and evidently he was not so happy with that, with blazing headlights with the flasher. But yeah, what can you do? You can only keep on racing, and all of them have one more pit stop to do. So this is just going to the line now.
Yeah, we're back on board with the number 100 Mercedes AMG GT3 of Christopher Lagertsen, having done a great job so far. We normally see Christopher ending up in either Porsches or Lexuses, but decided to go with the venerable Mercedes. But now coming back under pressure from Juri Stiekvoort from the Netherlands. Gone through Advan into the NGK chicane. Oh, Stiekvoort looking, sort of put his nose to the left-hand side of the Mercedes as if to say to Lagertsen, you know what, I'm still here. You're not going to get rid of me that easily. And Reiner Hesse now starting to come back at the pair in front. So a real interesting battle. Nathan Thomas is now pitted for the final time. So the only drivers so far out of the top 5 that have yet to pit for the final time, it is Dobbs in the 83, Romanek in the 23, and Ohak in the number 13. They all have one more mandatory pit stop to make as Juri Stiekvoort finally gets back up the inside. Oh, Christopher Lagertsen in the 100 Mercedes to take 9th position. Dean Vella at the moment is 2nd in GT4, whereas Nathan Mifsud is currently leading the way. But Nathan still has another pit stop to make. Sheldon Scott Muscat running at the top 3. And with the fact that he's going to have to refuel, that 17-second gap, Nico, between Nathan Mifsud and Dean Vella is going to literally extinguish rather quickly.
Yeah, I'd say so as well. Even if Nathan comes in for a very short one, you know, with the other guys playing it with maybe that 1 liter refuel. That stopping in the pit lane, of course, you have to turn off your engine as well, and then get going again at 50 Ks. That's, I think he's going to lose the lead there to Dean Vella again. But we now have David Ohak coming in into the pit lane in P6, last pit stop. Evidently also for a longer pit stop there, but we have to see now where he comes out. And we have our next penalty on the hands. That's a 5-second penalty for causing an incident to Jonas on a Beja.
5-second penalty as a result, I think, and there's another one about to come in as well. It's yeah, that means we now have, I'm counting, that is 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. I think we could be hitting double digits tonight, Nico, with these penalties. The amount of typing that I've seen from Adrian Figalo, our race director, is carry on at a pace, to be honest with you, as Alessandro Iadicola in the 77 Bentley, who's been in the wars from P10, has now pitted for the final time. And so yeah, this is where you can actually see who's doing what. So Adrian Figalo is our race director, George Muscat is our race steward, Justin Mifsud, our broadcast director, working on the cameras, and then obviously with myself on lead commentary, Alex Goldschmidt and Nico Hillebrand. It gets worse now. The number 4 of Nathan Mifsud, our GT4 leader, Nico, gets a drive-through for causing an avoidable collision with Jonas in the number 69 Porsche. Our GT4 leader has had that opportunity of a potential victory tonight taken from him like the carpet ripped from underneath his feet, and he's fallen flat on his back.
Yeah, that is quite the definition of a wrench thrown into the gears. But of course, yeah, you said has the possibility of a win pulled away from him like a carpet, But the thing is, everyone has to, judging from that he has gotten the penalty, it's a mistake he made, and of course that is one thing that we addressed earlier. It's just that problem of constantly being aware of your surroundings, always having to be quite active with looking around, with always paying attention to where you are going and what you could potentially be in the way of, or what could be in the way of you. And as you said, around that 1 hour mark, it's where the concentration of some drivers just starts to let go a little bit by little bit.
Yeah, very true. So that will hand Dean Vella the lead in GT4, and just by an assumptive estimation that could put Sheldon Scott Muscat into P2. So that would be a Porsche winning in GT4 and a Mercedes second. As there's Pedro Gomes being passed now by Nathan Thomas, and there is, oh, that's the leader trying to filter his way through. So that's Joseph Dobson, the number 83 Mercedes, going up the inside of Pedro Gomes. Pedro Gomes there to get through.
Yeah, he really can't afford to lose time now.
No. I mean, when you look at the gap between... The thing is, he's going to need to have at least a 35 to 40 second window of opportunity. And with the amount of traffic he's got to get past, he's got Gergely Kunsabo just up ahead. Then he's got Nathan Thomas. Then there's the 07 of... Nathan Thomas just up ahead, who's just got past one of the GT4 back markers. And I'm wondering who that is. That could be... That might be David... That's it's Dean Vella there. So Dean Vella gets out of the way. And it's about the faster car coming through and making sure that the move is made cleanly. But then it's also down to the GT4 car to get out of the way rather quickly as well. So it's spatial awareness from both sides through into Advan. And the battle ahead of Josef is for 10th position. And Thomas has already made the move through. So that was great work by Nathan Thomas to get back up into the top 10. Oh, leader in the pits for the final time with 20 minutes and 45 seconds. We've just had a message from our broadcast director, Daniel Ginchard, actually had a disconnect. And we've had, and I've just been told by our race steward, George Muscat, that there have been over 25 reviews in this race. That's a sign of things to come for Saturday night, wouldn't you say, Nico?
Oh, for sure. I think that's going to be just as interesting, but of course there should be a little bit less trouble, I think, because of course we won't have that bit of multiclass, I think. So yeah, that's always something that plays into that. But we now have our new overall leader, Marcus Littlewood, who actually probably did that strategy play that I mentioned with refilling just 1 little liter and making it to the end here. Very nicely done. And Dobis, I think, should come out at the back end of that in 2nd place now. So Luke Whitehead, while having the best pace at the start, it just didn't quite work out. And there he is right behind Dobis right there. And that question is now, can Joseph Dobis make it to the end now, actually, without losing their last position?
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing. Is now Lucas Romanek now pits from P4, and the sunset. Look at that, the sun sort of showing over the lines of the forest there in the Eifel region here at the Nurburgring. Server time now 7:25 p.m. We are on a 5 times accelerator on the server here, so the race started at 2 p.m. We're now at 7:25 p.m. on the server. The track temperature though, Nico, it was over 32 degrees when we went green over an hour and 10 minutes ago. It's now dropped by nearly 10 degrees Celsius down to 23, and the wind has suddenly started to pick up.
Yeah, the wind is actually starting to pick up a little bit, 4 kilometers an hour currently, but in the favor of the drivers, I would actually say, because as you have noticed, what was that? Maybe just hit that inside curb a little bit, and of course at Advan you don't want to do that because that's a quite high curb. The overcast has gone to light clouds, and we can see that wonderful pink evening sky in the Eifel. And when I was little, my mother always used to call that the angels are baking cookies right now. Wonderful pink evening sky.
Stop saying that, you'll make me hungry now.
But yeah, it's the evening now, but either way, without the overcast, sun has set quite a bit, so the temperature on the track has dropped considerably. So that should actually pick up some lap times as well, or get them down rather.
Yeah, because you can now see Luke Whitehead closing on Josef Dobbs from Germany for 2nd position. And they're making their way down to Valvoline and Ford before the hairpin at Dunlop. And that Audi looks a bit more settled than that Mercedes at the minute. As through into the corner they go. And Oh, Whitehead has run wide there. And that was through Ford. But then they've got a Lexus just in front. Just getting out of the way. That'll be Steve Painter in the number 14. Who just got past. But I must be completely honest here, Nicole, that between Josef and Luke, they've done a pretty good job. They're both keeping each other honest.
Yeah, definitely. I think they're looking just to make that final fight last down to the line, but Whitehead, of course, he is in a hurry right now, and I think he doesn't want to just, well, wait around that much, because he doesn't have anything to wait around for. Of course, Littlewood is now in a quite comfortable distance, but Dobes is quite close, and it's just those two, because Malcherek in the Ferrari is actually quite far back as well, but there, once again looking down the inside, but thinks better of it, not quite able to make a move yet, but again, not quite able, but he's right there, and Josef Dobes, he definitely is aware of that.
Right, Pedro Gomes has now got a drive-through penalty, and that was on Yesny in the number 5 as... Oh my goodness, again, backmarker traffic catches out another top-tier driver, and that was the number 4 of Nathan Mifsud that got belted from behind, courtesy of Luke Whitehead. Dobbs went to get past. Oh my goodness me. Again, that's caught... that Alex Johnson was... no, what was it? It was Nathan Thomas that got caught out of it. It's now being caught... It's caught out Luke Whitehead, and that now has put him right into, I think, probably the steward's firing line. But I'm wondering, you know, was Mifsud at fault? Maybe not in the steward's eyes, but that puts them to over 30 reviews so far, I think. As now Kunsabo being asked quite unceremoniously there to get out of the way. And I think that is Sheldon Muscat just up ahead in the number 15. That is the case as they go through the Michael Schumacher S's. The Mercedes trying to get the GT3 trying to get past the GT4. Oh, that was close again for Luke Whitehead, and now he's going to try and fire it up the inside through into the next corner at Hankook, I think it's now called, not Michelin. I'm getting so many different track maps these days. You don't know which corner it's called, but Whitehead was very, very close indeed to getting up the inside there.
Yeah, for sure. And, well, as he said, with all the corner names, I'd say the corner names at the Nurburgring by now change about as consistently as the weather. Every 5 minutes you have a different sponsor name at a different corner. But, yeah, Whitehead, with that bit of hard-stopping action just now to turn 1, still hasn't been able to get past that Mercedes, which is now going down the middle in between the two Porsches. So, yeah, that corner of Germany, that southwestern corner of Germany, all 3 wide down the front stretch, and now Ingolstadt comes to make that German quartet complete.
Yes, so Stuttgart, Falterbach, and now Ingolstadt, making definitely the Germanic brands very much paramount here at the Nürburgring with just 13 minutes and 45 seconds to go. The sunlight, though, Nico, is fading rather quickly, and with that is going to bring the track temperatures down as we head to Marcus Littlewood, who is still leading. We're on to lap number 39 of this race, and the fact is that Dobbs and Whitehead are giving him the absolutely perfect opportunity to just casually bring the Porsche home.
Yeah, and honestly, that is just what he wanted all along, I think. Littlewood's one of the guys that got attacked quite viciously right from the get-go. Whitehead got a better start off the line, and of course Johnston very, very close in between him and the pit wall, so relegating Littlewood down to 3rd place rather quickly. But on the long term he managed to play it off very nicely. But now here, Dobes, who was quite far down the order in comparison, he has managed to just pull out quite a miracle here with strategy, fighting for 2nd place overall. And Whitehead, he definitely did not think he would have this fight to end the race with.
Yeah, and you can definitely be sure of the fact that these drivers will be absolutely pushing to Kingdom Come towards the end of this race. René Hesse in the number 690 McLaren 720S GT3, powered by the M840T twin-turbo V8 engine, producing around about 600 or so horsepower, coupled with the McLaren Motorsport-derived 6-speed paddle shift gearbox. As now Whitehead really closing on the number 83 Mercedes into the dying stages. Yellow flags briefly out. They try and get past one of the back markers, which is Dan Hackett in the 44 718 Cayman, and through out of the Mercedes arena they go, but Dobbers gets a better run in comparison with Whitehead as they head down into the next left and then into the next right-hander at 4 before they run down to Dunlop, which is the 180 right-hand hairpin. And this is where it's going to get rather interesting, because now the server is now hit 8 p.m. on the server time, and with the a multiplier of 5 on the time advance, we are going to be ending up finishing under the nighttime sky here at the Nurburgring. Lukas Romanek in 6th position, gets past one of the Janetta back markers. There's Gergely Kunsabo, was in contention at the sharp end of the grid, but now Sheldon Muscat is actually leading the way. So,
but also has to pit one last time.
I thought that might be the case. So Dean Vella will take the lead whenever Muscat decides to make a pit stop. And you can see the front of that 718 Cayman, Nico, is a little bit battle scarred, let's say.
I think overall, I think there's just a minority of cars by now who don't have some sort of battle scar. Because as we saw so far, if you haven't sent it down the inside at least once, have you really been in this race?
Have you actually been trying? We're now back on board with Christopher Lagertsen, who's got, I think that could be Sheldon Scott Muscat just up ahead in the GT4. That is the case. So Lagertsen, currently in 14th, was running as high as P9, P10 earlier on in the race.
Way through the Mercedes arena. I think that's Nathaniel Thomas right behind him, trying to make his way back up to the top. His pit strategy, I'd say it worked worse for Ware, because of course he came in the top 5, and now he's just barely able to make his way back through into the top 7. But either way, this is, of course, still a fun race. So for bigger races that no doubt will come in the future, that is some valuable info that he has got now.
Yeah, very true, Nico. Very, very true. Hopefully, I think you all can hear us now. So a slight issue with the with Discord at that particular moment in time. Even with the current situation, reference the situation around the globe. A lot of people getting onto the esports train. And we've been there for quite a bit of time here at World Pro Racing, let me assure you of that. So 7 minutes and 40 still to go. Luke Whitehead pushing like absolutely crazy. He's trying to chase down the 83 of Josef Dobbs from Germany. And the gap between Dobbs and Littlewood now 16.7 seconds. And it looks like we're getting another notification from race control very, very briefly. But just look how good this circuit looks in the dark here, Nico. It's absolutely fantastic. Seeing that transition from daytime to nighttime.
Yeah, it's just always something very lovely here. And also just the reflections when the headlights hit other cars, when the headlights hit smoke and dust being thrown up by gravel or grass. It's just always so, so nice. Here, of course, with Unreal Engine 4. And now the Bentley slams on the brakes to let Luke Whitehead by. Whitehead, of course, lost out a little bit now. I think that damage that he got is actually playing into that a bit. And Dobus is just falling away a bit now. Littlewood, meanwhile, coming around turn 1 for what is probably the 4th or 5th last time for this race. And he's looking quite comfy in his place, isn't he?
He is indeed. Looks like Steve Painter's got a... Yep, he's just been confirmed by race control. So when Painter hit the back bumper of Dean Vella in the 54, race control have found it pertinent to hand out a 10-second post-race time penalty that will be added onto the race time of Steve Painter for a collision between the pair of them on lap number 36. That was 7 laps ago. So Steve Painter will drop down a little bit further down the order, but Dean Vella still at the moment is leading. And he has got no more pit stops to make. He's being closed in on by Daniel Strumer in the number 1 Mercedes, but Strumer still has a mandatory pit stop to make. We've got 5.5 minutes still to go. Now, was that Romanek having a bit of a moment I spotted coming out of the final corner? Possibly. I'm not too sure, but Nico, the track temperature has dropped over 11 degrees coming into the last 5 minutes, and I think that was Romanek having a bit of a wobble coming out of the Coca-Cola corner.
Yeah, and I think at this point we also have to talk about tire temperatures, because of course we're running now on the 2020 tire model, and that was a Ferrari certainly not facing the right way. Basically, luckily it wasn't Christian Malcherek, because he's still fighting with Patel for P4. There was Prit Perner. But basically, the 2020 tire model a little bit more advanced than the 2019 one, because this one is a little bit more sensitive towards temperature changes. So if the guys haven't adjusted their setup to these low temperatures, for example, of course they will be on the right pressures if they adjusted the pressures accordingly, but keeping temperature in those tires is going to be considerably more difficult. And yeah, of course, cold tires, that is something that every driver is quite horrified of.
Yeah, because the minute that the track temperature drops below a certain window, the drivers will get caught out. Like Pripana just found out a moment ago. Lucas Romanek having a moment coming out of the final corner. But it's still, I think now it's just about guiding the cars home as Reina Ressa being closed in on. I think that is Alessandro Iadicola just behind. I think, yes, that is the case. That's just been confirmed because Iadicola tried the old flashing light technique there on Ressa, which I don't think the McLaren driver will be quite keen on, because what he'll be doing is having the blinkers on, eyes front, as they now head down from Ford to Dunlop before they then make their way through the Michael Schumacher S's. Yellow flags out again, out on the circuit, but briefly retracted. And this is where the drivers are really starting to feel it. The adrenaline might be sort of wearing off ever so slightly, but there is Marcus Littlewood in the number 12 Porsche coming through the NGK chicane and into the Coca-Cola corner. So I would think this is going to be the penultimate lap of this race as he now makes his way across the line.
Very quickly though, look at that gap to Dobus. That has gone down quite considerably in the last couple laps. I said earlier he's out of the danger zone because that was 17 seconds, but now it's down to 11.8. Has he maybe miscalculated his fuel? Is he now in map 12 maybe? Because you don't just lose 6 seconds within a couple laps.
Yeah, I mean, you can still see that Josef Dobes is still on map 1. He's been on map 1 the whole race. You know, we're on lap number 44. Marcus Littlewood, trying to see on his display. But I mean, he's using good modulation of the brake and the throttle there. So I don't think. I mean, I think he's probably just got enough to get himself over the line. But when you look at it from this perspective, Littlewood has done. He's not really made any mistakes. Okay, he lost out a bit in the start, but he's kept himself composed. He's made sure that he's out front. He's not put a foot wrong. He's made sure he's got past traffic at the right moments, at the right points on the circuit, to allow himself that affordability to keep in front. But then he makes a bit of a mistake there going through the corner, and that is possibly Sheldon Muscat behind. I think maybe if it's a GT4, you can see the sparks fly off the Porsche's rear diffuser there. So through Advan, he'll then have to go through the NGK chicane. What will be the 40? Well, we'll be on to lap number 46 in a second. So the 45th and penultimate time. Marcus Littlewood comes out of the final corner and he'll cross the line with just under 55 seconds on the clock. We now are officially on the final lap of the race. And let's just keep our eyes on the gap between Littlewood and Dorbes in the battle for first and second position. Littlewood makes his way to the first corner, and Dorbes, hasn't made that much of a dent into it. And it's 10.7 seconds, Nico. Dorbes looking to secure second. Whitehead more than likely going to secure the podium. But it looks like it's going to be a loss of joy in GT4, because if we go to the leaderboard in that at the moment, Dean Vella leads the way ahead of Sheldon Scott Muscat by 15.6 seconds. Muscat started P5 in GT4. Vella started on pole position. And if I'm honest here, Josef Dorbes started P9 in the race. And look, it's going to be... Is that me? That's going to be a GT Omega RPM Racing 1, 2, 3 in GT4. Hang on, no, make that 4 with Nathan Mifsud running at the top 4 positions. That's crazy. Time has struck 0. Littlewood trying to get past Tanel Kasesalu. And that was going through the Michael Schumacher S's. Oh, I think he must have had a bit of a new Nomex situation there, virtually speaking. But after 90 minutes here at the Nordschleife, just after 9 p.m. on the server, through the right-hander at Advan at over 220 kilometers an hour in 5th gear. Now braking for the NGK chicane comes the number 12 Porsche 911 GT3R of Omega E Racing Teams, Marcus Littlewood. 46 laps completed. He flashes the headlights. Pole position and a victory here at the Nurburgring by Marcus Littlewood. As we wait for Germany's Josef Dorbes, he comes out of the final corner from 9th to 2nd at the end of 46 laps. And Whitehead gets a 5-second time penalty added to his race time, but that I think will still keep him in 3rd on the podium. But Dean Vella from GT Omega RPM Esports in the 54 Porsche now makes his way down towards the last few corners. Sheldon Scott Muscat takes 2nd in GT4 ahead of the number 1, and that is of Daniel Strumer. And I'm just going to look and try and confirm this now. Okay, Dean Vella, GT Omega RPM Esports. Sheldon Muscat, of course, we know who he runs with. It is a top 4 for GT Omega RPM Esports in this race, as Dean Vella now makes his way through into the Michael Schumacher S's. A bit different. The speed about 60 kilometers off. Well, about 40 kilometers off an hour off, and a gear down in comparison with the GT3 cars. So this is rather interesting because now it is a top 4. GT Omega RPM Esports have 2nd, 3rd and 4th in this class sewn up. And we're just waiting for the number 54 Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Schwart of Dean Vella exiting the NGK chicane. One more corner, and that is a clean sweep for the GT Omega RPM Esports team to celebrate about tonight, because Dean Vella races to the victory here at the Nurburgring.
What a power move though as well. Last car not to get lapped, so he puts another lap onto the distance between himself and P2. So in the results sheets, it'll say won by an entire lap, and that in a 90-minute race, that is, quite impressive, of course.
Yeah, that's a country mile and a half. But first of all, let's have a chat with our first interviewee of the evening. Good to speak to this man again. Congratulations to our pole sitter in GT3, but also our race winner, Marcus Littlewood. Marcus, very, very difficult start at the beginning, 37 plus cars going into turn 1. You got a little bump from behind from Nathan Thomas, I believe, but you still kept pushing and you managed to get the undercut on the competition. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. Obviously, the start wasn't what I hoped for, but I just bounced back and got the win in the end, kept calm. So, yeah, I would like to say a massive thanks to Team Omega, E-Racing, and my real-life sponsors, Bailey MK, Raptor Racewear, and also Red Kite Kitchens, because they've done a great job. Thank you.
Oh, I mean, obviously, this is your second casual race victory of the season. Obviously, you took the win, I think, if memory serves me correctly, I think it was our first race of the season in 2021. And to now have the momentum going into the rest of the week, you're looking forward to what's coming up?
Yeah, it's obviously a big confidence booster going into Misano for the sprint series and the Nurburgring all-German 2 hours. So yeah, it's great. Good confidence booster.
Well done tonight, Marcus. Congratulations, and obviously we'll see you for the World Pro Racing Sprint Series on Friday, and then see you on Saturday night for the all-German race back here again at the Nurburgring. Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, I'm going to turn our attentions to our 3rd place finisher. Good to have this man back on top form. Let's have a chat with Luke Whitehead in the Audi. Luke, the steering wheel troubles have got resolved, and I was so happy to see you back on pace, even though it was close between yourself and Josef towards the end of the race.
Hello, Luke? Your microphone isn't picking up right now.
Hello, can you hear me?
There we are.
There we are.
Right, apologies. So
That's all right.
I'm going to start on a positive note first. Well done
Go
to
on.
Marcus and Josef. They both drove a fantastic race, They both didn't put a foot wrong. I'm just a bit gutted, to be honest. A bit disappointed because up until Dan Hackett ruined my race, I'm going to say outright, he was in a GT4 car. I get past him down the straight and he swerves me into a wall. Completely unnecessary. He repeatedly waited up for me and took me out of the race. And up until that point, the race was mine. I had a 10-second gap. I was, I think, the quickest on circuit, consistently setting good lap times, tyre conservation, everything was good. And then he just ruined the race for me. No reason for it at all. He just repeatedly waited up for me, and his teammate Ginchard as well, being a bit of a pain, to be honest. Both of them, should be ashamed, if I'm completely honest. Should both be handed penalties, and World Pro Racing is no place for drivers like that. When they're in a different class, jealous of someone who's much better than them. It's not on. It's not on at all. So yeah, a little bit angry, as you could probably tell. Robbed of a race victory, which was probably mine up until that point. But yeah, regardless, well done to Marcus, as I said, and Josef. They both did really well.
No, and obviously heading into the 3rd round of the World Pro Racing Sprint Series at Misano this coming Friday, how are you feeling ahead of that one?
I mean, I'm really happy because I drove one of the strongest races I've driven in a long time, and my pace has been really good. I've had my brake pedal fixed just for tonight, actually. So the pace has been really good. My testing's been really good. I just hope that Ginchard and Hackett aren't up to their old tricks next week. I just hope that it doesn't come back to haunt me. But yeah, no, the pace is good. I'm confident, and hopefully I should be on the podium again.
Well done, Luke. Congratulations on your third place finish. Nico, yeah, no worries at all. Nico, I think if you speak to Josef, I think would be quite fitting this evening.
Yes, Josef, staying a bit under the radar there in qualifying, only in the 5th row, but through the progression of the race, solidified yourself in the top 3 to then take 2nd place. And honestly, how happy are you with this race?
Yeah, very happy. Finally, things were clicking. Qualifying was not so good. I think I'm more the guy in the long stints and not just for one lap. So yeah, row 5 is okay. If turn 1 is good and you have no carnage, then basically you just control the race from behind, I guess. I had a good strategy. Basically, I did a long, 1 hour stint with the first set of tires, and then I got fuel for another half an hour, new set of tires, and they worked very good. I was lucky that I changed my tire so late, so basically I knew that the weather was going colder and colder, so I adjusted my tire pressure pretty good. So my tires were good in the last minute, like they were in the first minute. So yeah, I'm really happy.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic strategy. And overall, of course, we mentioned at the start the easiest way would, of course, be just to split it in 3/3, just of 30 minutes each. But yeah, you're going for that very unexpected strategy of doing a full hour, especially with the Mercedes, of course, having one of the highest fuel consumptions. So you must have had a very heavy car at the start of the race.
Yeah, that was probably let's say a little problem, but somehow the Mercedes felt, I must say, better, heavy like it was than in qualifying with just 20 liters of fuel. So I guess my setup was a little bit off in qualifying, and I found a really good setup for the race.
Yeah, that's definitely visible in the end result. So yeah, congratulations, Josef. Fantastic race from you, and a very well-deserved 2nd place. Back to you, Alex.
Yeah, so well done, Josef. Thank you very much for tonight. We'll now turn our attentions to our GT4 race winner, and it was the top 4 for GT Omega RPM Esports. Let's have a chat, first of all, to our pole sitter and race victor, Dean Vella. Dean, congratulations, first of all, but how are you all at GT Omega RPM Esports feeling right now? You've literally swept the top 4, including the podium tonight.
Hello, first of all, thank you. I guess as a whole team effort, it's pretty good to see all the guys just taking up the top spots. So yeah, I guess that does set the tone for the future for the team, hopefully, definitely.
And also, one of the biggest factors was that Dan Ginchard in the number 37 Porsche was alongside you on the front row for GT4, but had a disconnect. Do you think that we could have seen a very interesting battle had that not happened for him?
Yeah, definitely. In terms of entertainment, of course, it would have been much nicer to watch. But yeah, it's unfortunate what happened, and hopefully in the next races his connection stays is a bit more solid, at least for him.
And also, finally, Dean, just talk us about what was your game plan going into this race, because we did see that quite a few people were in the wars. Obviously, the closing speeds between the GT3s and the GT4s were very, very prominent. I think Nathan got hit on one occasion, or several drivers got hit, I think, on one occasion or another, such as I think even yourself actually got hit by the number 14 Lexus of Steve Painter. And that can really throw a driver off of their rhythm. What's always the best way in how you come back from that and go, well, okay, I've taken a hit, it's happened, I've got to just get on with business?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, judging by what happened, you were right. Actually, got hit the last few, I think, 15 minutes, I think, of the race. Of course, the first few corners after, starting driving again is you're quite angry, of course. But then it's all about just getting the rhythm again, feeling the car, feeling if there's any damage, and just trying to do your best really to get in the groove again. Because admittedly, it's quite hard at times to kind of get in the groove again when someone crashed you out or something along those lines. But it's important to keep your head together. Really, that's really it.
Alex, microphone.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute myself there. Whoops. Dean, congratulations for tonight, and hopefully we'll see you back again here on World Pro Racing and see if you can go for more glory. Well done tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, Nico, over to you for the next interview.
Right, next up we have Sheldon with the AMG. So yeah, my hypothesis for the race actually stood quite well in the test of time. The Porsche is very strong in qualifying, but majority of the podium actually covered with a Falterbach stars. So yeah, Sheldon, your race positions were quite like a yo-yo. We saw you up in the top two, and then suddenly down to ninth again, and suddenly back up there. How did the race go for you overall?
Yeah, good evening. I got hit like 3 times during that race by a GT3 cars, of course. They were quite aggressive in corners. They were dive bombing, you have to be careful. Basically, you can lose the race like in one corner in a GT4, especially the Nurburgring.
So overall, you mentioned you had very big difficulties with the GT3 cars. So was it easy or was it quite difficult to find a rhythm into this entire charade with, well, not charade, but the shenanigans with the GT3 cars, of course, coming into lap at this high speed difference? Like, were there any bigger corners that you had to look out for constantly more? Or then, for example, just others?
I was giving them a lot of space in like Schumacher S, for example. I got hit there, by the way. And like, for example, the turn 1, turn 1 as well. But I mean, these things happen, you have to accept them, and then you have to be, you have to keep your calm and put your focus back in, and lap consistently and get into the rhythm again. And that's what I did.
Ah, yeah, okay. Perfect. Overall, qualifying didn't go like that stunningly because, of course, Porsches ruled there. Were you discouraged by that at all? Or did you just go into the race very optimistically?
I got blocked by 2 GT3 cars, so I was going to like by a 10th, something like that, but there was a lot of pace in that car in qualifying, but I couldn't lap a whole good lap together.
Yeah, luckily in the end, in the race, it worked out better, and very respectable second place. Very well done, and congratulations, Sheldon. Back to you once again, Alex.
It did. Thank you a lot. Thanks. Good evening.
Okay, our last interview tonight here on World Pro Racing to conclude our coverage of the 90-minute multi-class here at the Nurburgring. Let's turn to our driver that completed the podium, the number 1 Mercedes of Daniel Strumer. Daniel, good evening, and congratulations on your podium tonight. How are you feeling?
Hello, good evening. Yeah, I'm quite happy, to be honest. It was a big surprise to get on the podium because I had some problems with my hardware, but at the end it worked well.
And obviously over the course of the race we did see that the GT4s were being closed in on rapidly. Obviously we had both Justine and Sheldon explaining about being involved in incidents. I know it was very close for yourself on a number of occasions. Just tell us from a driver's perspective, how much are your eyeballs on stalks when you're noticing that GT3 traffic is closing rather quickly?
Well, like my teammates said, it's very, very difficult because they were quite aggressive in some occasions. But the good thing in ACC is that the spotter, he tells you about 2 seconds before the GT3 cars gonna overtake you. He tells you, so you're looking into the mirror, and well, if it's possible, I at least try to let them a lot of space. Sometimes I really just braked and went completely out of the driving line just to let them pass, because there was no point crashing and don't finish the race.
And did you think that a podium was a possibility with everything that was happening in GT4 this evening?
No, to be honest, I'm very, very surprised. Actually, I don't even know what position I qualified, because, like I said, I had a problem with my hardware. I'm using a VR headset, and between the end of the qualifying and the race, I needed to sort it, and I didn't even know what position I was in. I just tried to stay calm at the beginning, try to avoid any crashes, and yeah, it worked quite well.
Yeah, you actually qualified 9th, just like Josef in GT3. So you made a gain of 6 positions over the course of the race. So Daniel, congratulations for the night, and well done.
Thanks a lot. I would like to thank our sponsors, GT Omega Racing, Gaming Malta, HyperX, World Pro Racing, and our team RPM Esports. Thanks. Bye-bye.
So, Nico, just to really sum up things, both drivers that put it on pole were the ones that ended up taking the victory tonight. This, I think, as we got a message on from our race director Adrian Figalo. He said it's been a very, very busy evening tonight. A very busy time for race direction tonight was his exact quote. Not just for him, but for our race steward George Muscat. I mean, tonight's just set a real big tone of what we've got coming this week with all the events as well, haven't we?
Yeah, overall it's I think a quite good mood setter for this entire week, because of course we have the next round of the ACC Sprint Series, of course, and after that the all-German 2-hour race at the Nurburgring, same track once again. But honestly, this was just already quite a good start into the week. Nice way to spend a Tuesday evening, and it was really exciting from beginning to the end, because of course, we had all these different things counting in strategy, we had the different classes, and of course some of the best drivers that we could find, and that signed up to these races. So I'm very happy with the evening, and I hope the drivers are all as well.
Indeed. Don't forget, if you are watching on our official YouTube channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also hit the notification bell. A big thank you to everyone watching on TVM Sports in Malta, also motorsport.tv, and our good friends at Esports TV as well. A big thank you to all our sponsors and partners, without who World Pro Racing would not be around today. Gaming Malta, Melita, who powered this stream, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, where we're all gamers, and AMD. Don't forget to tune in this coming Friday evening, 8:30 p.m. Central European Time, 7:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, for the halfway point of the World Pro Racing ACC Sprint Series at Misano, with our very own Jake Sperry and also Kieran McGinley, with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Nico Hilbrand being back with you for the all-German 2-hour race, back once again at the Nurburgring on Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. Thank you all for watching. Take care, look after yourselves, stay safe, and good night. We'll see you very soon.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.